I did my presentation on the breweries of Maine. I did a selection on the different types of breweries in Maine, along with what different types of beer are, as well as different facts and statistics about Maine brewing companies. Um, okay, so what is a brewery? A brewery is a place where beer is made commercially. And most of the breweries in Maine are craft breweries, which are more private and privately owned. They can be owned by companies, but a lot of them tend to be more privately owned. A craft brewery is also known as a microbrewery, and it's a brewery that produces a small amount of beer, and it's independently owned, and it uses traditional techniques when brewing the beer. Okay, what is beer? Beer is defined as an alcoholic beverage that's usually made from malted cereal grain flavored with hops and brewed by fermentation. So basically, it takes a long time to brew beer, and to get it to where you want it. It takes a lot of technique, and it takes a lot of time and patience to brew a craft beer. Many breweries are owned privately because that's what their main job is. That's what they want to do. They want to strictly focus on the brewery, which is what they need to do in order to be successful in the business. There are 4 different types of breweries. The main parts. A brew pub is a restaurant brewery, and it sells 25% of its beer there on site. So you're coming in to a restaurant. It's half a pub, half a restaurant, and that's what they would call a brew pub, where most of the beer is sold right there while people are dining. A microbrewery is a brewery that produces less than 15,000 barrels of beer per year. Excuse me. So it's a little smaller and private. It's again privately owned, but it's a little smaller and doesn't require, I guess, as many hands-on workers because it's so small, and they don't produce as much barrels of beer as, like, say, a company brewery. A regional craft brewery is independent brewery, and it produces over 15,000 barrels of beer per year. The majority of the volume is in traditional beers, so the more common, the Bud Lights and the lagers and stuff like that. So that's more common in the regional craft breweries. And lastly, the contract brewing company is a business that hires another company to produce its beer. So a company, you can name the company, do whatever, but you personally, if you own that, don't brew the beer on site. You hire another company to do it for you, and then you sell it and distribute it. Obviously, the company that makes the beer gets a commission off of what the brewery hiring them makes. So that would kind of get you out a little bit. Along with different types of breweries, there are also different types of styles and brews of beers. Not every beer is the same. A lot of them have a lot of different flavors and a lot of different styles. So the different types of beer, there are 4 major types of beer. There's ales, lagers, stouts and porters, and malts. Ales are generally robust with flavor, so they're very flavorful. They come with a variety of fruit and malt aromas. They're often darker than lagers, so ales can be pretty dark beer, which tends to be a little heavier of a beer in my experience. It tends to be a little heavier. Lagers, they're more crisp and refreshing type of beer than lagers are. They get that way because they age longer, so they're crafted longer, and so they get a better taste to them. And they're refreshing, and they're pretty smooth to go down. I agree with that as well. Those are very good beers. Stouts and porters are very little difference between the two of them. Porters are dark to the point where they almost look black, and they're very fruity and dry. Stout is not as sweet, but stouts are creamier and richer, and they have maybe more flavor a little bit than the stouts, but they're just as good. The malts are usually normally dark beer, and they're sweeter, and they also can have like hints of caramel or toffee and nuts in them, and that's a really big favorite. That's a popular beer. Malts are just depends on the intenseness of the flavor. And those are just different pictures of beers, different types of ales. Okay, so just a few facts about breweries. The state of Maine, it says that there are 71 breweries in total that are in working commission right now. That number varies a lot. With the growing industry of breweries, that number will increase a lot in the next few years. Many people try to start it up for a while before they actually get a name for their company, and they do their own private testing and then go from there. The first established brewery in Maine was in Portland. It was established in 1983, and it was the D.L. Geary Brewing Company. That was the first brewery that I could find that was established in Maine. Currently, there are 287,257 barrels of beer produced per year in the state of Maine. That is just an average amount. It could be more, could be a little less, but 90, that's pretty correct. Beer is also the third most popular beverage in the world, and that is including the breweries that have sold $92.6 million worth of beer. That happened in 2013. And the brewers in Maine also employ many people. And in the year of 2013, when they made the $92.6 million worth of beer, they employed 1,500 workers as well. So that opened up a lot of job opportunities. So with the growing industry of beer, you expect that to increase by quite a bit. Okay, so choosing the right beer for you. So it just depends on the type of taste that you prefer. Making the decision on what beer suits you best, it can be difficult if you don't know. You might go through a lot of different things to try and decide which one's best for you. These are just a few of the most popular beer flavors. There's a ton. You can pretty much get any kind of style and flavor. There's so many. The most popular ones I find are amber, blonde, light, and pale. So ambers are more malt aromas, and they have caramel in them. They can be lagers or ales, the amber flavor. Blonde ales are generally pale in color, and they can be clear, crisp, and dry. They are a little bit bitter in their taste, and also can be sweet at the same time. So those are good. Light beers are extremely light in color and mild in flavor. They're not as intense, and they sometimes have fewer alcohol content and fewer calories. So something like a Bud Light or a Coors Light would be in that category. And pale ales, they have a fruity, copper-colored style. They come from England, actually. The pale ales originated from England. They have a robust flavor, and many people are said to drink that with spicy food. Apparently, it's a good combination. So, looking on Maine Craft Beer, they're looking at an increase in production by 36% between the years of 2013 and 2014. Like I said, that number could vary with time, increase definitely. The little picture I have over here shows a few statistics of Maine breweries and Maine craft beer. And at that time, it had showed there were 39 craft breweries in Maine, and there were 18 brewers in planting. Where I got my 71 is a rough estimate of that now, how many are all in total. And it stated that 11 of those breweries had opened up in the year of 2011, so that's quite a bit. They also do in the state of Maine a lot of festivals in regards to breweries and private companies like that. The state of Maine really supports the local breweries, I feel. So also an article that was written in 2014 predicted that Maine would have a very strong craft brew industry, and that by the year 2018, it would increase by 200% production. So that's a very big amount in just 4 years. These are some of the different logos for some of the different breweries in Maine. There are so many. A lot of them which have the privately owned brew pubs. That's a big popular thing. I know personally. I enjoy a setting like that. Breweries are fun to also go to. You can do wine tastings. You can do beer tastings. You can get a flight, which is a table or a tray. I'm sorry, full of different samples of different beers. If you go to a brewery and you've never been before, you can sample the beer without having to purchase, separately giant bottles. You can normally get a flight for around $10, and that'll give you at least 10 different personally brewed beers to try. That's a really cool opportunity. It's a really fun thing to do with friends or anything like that. Also with Maine, sometimes they can partner with other breweries as well, and come up with new ideas and new flavors and such like that. That's always in the works. You definitely want to make sure that you're getting a good and quality beer when you drink it, especially when you're spending the money. You can pretty much go anywhere in the state of Maine and find a brewery. You're not far away from one anywhere. So it's a really good opportunity if you're just looking for a time out and you just want to relax and go, and you can put in your Google Maps and you can find a Maine brewery pretty much anywhere. One of my favorites is Mainly Brews. That's down by Clinton, Maine, Waterville area. I heard that is a really popular spot right now. And also, I know in Caribou, Maine, a new brewery just opened up. Northern Maine Brewing Company, I believe is the name of it, just opened up recently, and that has been a very popular hit around here, and I think that will be really successful. Back to the slide about the statistics, the Maine craft beer. Maine is also one of the top 5 most popular and successful states when it comes to craft breweries. Like I said, the number is expected to expand significantly in the next, 4 years. I'd say 2 years now. It's 2016. Some of these statistics are a little outdated. But with that being said, the annual number projection is not changed. It's probably even gotten higher. With the success rate of breweries in Maine, I don't expect that to ever fall. I would suggest that if you were into trying new things, I would definitely go to a brewery and get a flight and try some of their new beers. There's a lot of history with breweries too. I know you can do some tours and do a tasting as you do a tour through some of the breweries. I know many of the craft breweries in Maine allow you to do that, and most of them have specific websites that you can go on, and you can find tours and history about that too, which is a really cool fun fact because a lot of people like history, especially about their beers. So I would strongly urge anybody that would like to find out more to contact any of them. These, like I said, are just some of them. It's the Allagash Brewing Company, Sea Dog Brewing Company, the Bar Harbor Brewing Company, and Shipyard Brewing Company. I know Sea Dog is really popular because that has all different types of beers with it. They have like a blueberry, I think even. That's a really popular drink. I think out of all of these, Sea Dog and Shipyard are the 2 most popular brewing companies known right now. Allagash is a new, relatively new brewing company that seems to have a really good good backing, and they're expected to be very successful in their company. Also, the Bar Harbor Brewing Company you hear a lot about. It's a really popular tourist area, so people are always trying to find and do new things, and once one person does it, the next person does. So it's a pretty cool fact. So I encourage anybody who would be willing to try it to go out there. I mean, it has a lot of cool history. The brewing companies are just one of many things to learn about the state of Maine. However, I feel like if you do get the opportunity to go do a tour of a brewery and do some tastings, You'll find a lot more history involved in it than you would just online. So I hope you enjoyed my presentation about the main brewing companies, and that was it.